Cheated on again, huh? Those harsh words were thrown at me by my best friend June as I sat despondently. Don't say again. But it is again. How many times now? You were cheated on the last time, and the time before that too, right? Indeed, I was the girl who kept getting cheated on by her boyfriend. Always I'd start dating because I was asked to, but in the end, I'd be cheated on and discarded. Perhaps it was my fickle nature, but if someone asked me to date them, I'd generally fall for them. So, getting cheated on was always incredibly painful. Why do I always get cheated on? Then June replied with a dumbfounded look. Well, you're so indifferent that it's no wonder you're cheated on. When I'm dating, I'm all excited, but I don't want people to know that or to show that I like the person I'm dating, so I always end up acting detached. You know, if you don't do something about it, your life will be nothing but work, right? At her words, I held my head in my hands. My name is Melissa. I'm a 29-year-old office worker. Yes, 29 years old. I want to tell my 21-year-old self, who at her birthday party was saying things like, I'll be married by the latter half of my 20s, and by the time I'm 30, I'll have 2 kids, about my current situation. I loved the boyfriend I was dating at the time and thought we would get married, but he cheated on me and dumped me a year later. I'm bored being with you. Bored? What are all the other girlfriends in the world like? No matter how many times I thought about it, I just didn't get it. After that, I had boyfriends who cheated on me. Some relationships didn't even last 3 months. Looking back, the boyfriend I dated when I was 20, with whom I was together for more than a year, was the longest relationship I had. June, who knew all about this and had been my best friend since high school, had met someone wonderful, married at 27, now had a child, and was apparently going to have another one next year. The life I had imagined was June's. During this time, my coworkers were excitedly planning a blind date. A blind date, huh? I wondered if it was possible to find a good match in such a situation. Well, most of my colleagues were around the same age as me, so I understood their urgency, comrades. Then, one of them called out to me, Hey, Melissa, you should come too. I don't want to go on a blind date. But you just broke up with your boyfriend, right? She hit me where it hurts. I had only told my colleagues that I had broken up with my boyfriend. I didn't want it to get around the office that I was the girl who kept getting cheated on. With that thought, I unusually decided to participate in the blind date. Nevertheless, I didn't feel particularly enthusiastic. On the day of the blind date, I was dressed as usual, wearing my regular makeup, while the others in the group had put on nicer clothes and had done their makeup perfectly. So this is what a blind date is all about. I watched the scene as if it was someone else's business. The blind date was a stylish restaurant. When we arrived, 5 men were already seated. After ordering drinks and toasting, another man walked in. He was oddly disheveled, wearing a crumpled shirt and black-rimmed glasses. To put it kindly, he didn't seem suited for a blind date. Well, I'm not one to talk. After a while, a man approached me. I've fallen for you, Melissa. Let's exchange contact info. No matter how you looked at him, he seemed like a casual guy. As I hesitated, thinking that this was a bit too much, the man sat down next to me and tried to forcefully take my phone. Hey, could you please stop? I had to try to gently decline, but my words came out more stern than I had intended. Everyone was absorbed in their own conversations, paying no attention to me. Then suddenly, a man grabbed my arm. "Don't push it. They won't like it." It was the man in the crumpled shirt who had arrived late. His name, apparently, was Ricky. I thanked him, and he pushed up his glasses, shook his head, and without a word, sat across from me. He had a hard-to-read demeanor. As the party started to wind down, people who had paired off started to leave, and those going to the after-party also left. In the end, it was just Ricky and me. We ended up walking together to the subway station, mostly in silence. Ricky seemed to be a quiet person. When I asked him where his stop was, it turned out to be the station next to mine. What a coincidence! Ricky pushed his glasses up and offered to walk me home, but his expression was so neutral that I could tell he was just being polite. I declined and got off the subway before him. The next day, my coworkers were excitedly discussing the previous night. "Melissa, what happened with you and Mr. Crumpled Shirt?" Mr. Crumpled Shirt. Because his shirt was crumpled. Oh, Ricky! I inwardly rolled my eyes. Nothing happened. We were going in the same direction, so we just walked together. "Well, with that outfit, it's no surprise," a coworker chimed in. But I didn't particularly care. About a week later, while stopping by a bookstore to buy some comics on my way home from work, I ran into Ricky. "Huh?" We looked at each other. He lives at the next station, and this is the largest bookstore in the area. It's not surprising to bump into him. But still, what a coincidence. Plus, we picked up the same comic book. Huh? We realized this at the same moment. We both naturally said the same thing and laughed. Would you like to grab a bite? I had been thinking about picking up some prepared food at the nearby supermarket, so I readily accepted Ricky's invitation. And yes, Ricky was still Mr. Crumpled Shirt. I suggested a family restaurant, and we moved to a nearby location. Ricky, who hadn't said much during our previous encounter, was more talkative today. I found myself smiling often and realized he was both a good speaker and listener. When I told him this, Ricky pushed his glasses up and averted his gaze. Did I say something wrong? Since then, Ricky and I occasionally went out for meals or drinks. Ricky was the same age as me, worked at a startup, and enjoyed reading comics and going for drives. Information I hadn't known about him at the blind date suddenly came flooding in. Ricky was interesting, and we clicked. But then something started bothering me. "Hey, Ricky, do you have a girlfriend?" He pushed up his glasses and hastily responded, "If I had one, I wouldn't be going on blind dates." I guess that makes sense, but I felt surprisingly relieved at his response. Wait, do I like Ricky? No, we're just friends. The day after going out for drinks with Ricky, my coworkers approached me. "When did you two start dating?" Huh? Their question made me blurt out a weird sound. What were they thinking about? "You're dating Mr. Crumpled Shirt, aren't you?" Oh, Ricky. No. We just happened to live nearby, and we bumped into each other and went for drinks, that's all. Upon hearing my words, my coworker started to laugh. "Oh, okay, that makes sense. There's no way such a lame guy would be your boyfriend." One by one, they began making fun of Ricky's appearance. For some reason, I was seething. Before I knew it, I was shouting, "Hey, it's not about looks. Ricky is a really great guy." My coworkers uncomfortably slinked back to their desks. That night, I called my best friend June and told her about it. "You're totally in love with him," she said, laughing as she spoke up for my feelings. Indeed, I had come to this realization today at the office. I didn't like it when people made fun of him. Is it really like that? But confessing my feelings is terrifying. I don't care either way, but don't blame me if you regret it. With those words, I started leaning towards confessing. But is his income okay? His clothes are always ragged, aren't they? I knew he worked for a startup, but I didn't know about his earnings. But I knew, just by the fact that he was working, he was decent. Well, he seems to have a job, and compared to my unemployed ex-boyfriends... Yes, having had relationships with several people, just the fact that he was working made him seem like a fine person to me. Thinking about those unemployed guys who cheated, I can't forgive them. If you say so, Melissa, I can only tell you to go for it. With June's words, I decided to invite Ricky for a meal. For the first time, I invited Ricky to dinner on the weekend. It's the first time we would meet during the day. Then, because it was his day off, he suggested going for a drive instead. I remember him saying driving was one of his hobbies, so I agreed to let him pick me up in his car on the day. It felt almost like a date. And then the weekend arrived. I was waiting at the entrance of my apartment building when a white car pulled up. It was Ricky. I had imagined an old or compact, inexpensive-looking car, so I was surprised to see a car of considerable value. Oh, maybe he spends his small salary on his car. That's why he doesn't have money for clothes. I was satisfied with my own conclusions. The drive with Ricky was fun. Thanks to that, I almost forgot my main mission. I had completely forgotten until we reached my apartment. The moment he parked in front of my building, I turned to Ricky. I like you. Please go out with me. Ricky pushed his glasses up and said, Thank you. Then there was a silence. What does that mean? I want him to say something. Does he mean yes or no? I was staring at Ricky's face in surprise. Is this the pattern of a rejection? I said, I'm sorry, lowered my head and got out of the car and dashed into the apartment building. Men are all the same. As I was soaking my pillow with tears, a message from Ricky arrived. The message read, Please take care of me from now on. What? What was that silence earlier then? What was that about? With joy and anger mixing, I was thrown into a strange high. And so we started dating and decided to get married just before I turned 30. My co-workers ridiculed me endlessly. Are you sure you're okay with a guy like that? Won't you struggle financially? But I just wanted to be with the person I loved. He asked me to wait for a bit for the wedding ceremony, so we decided to register our marriage first and start looking for a new home soon. I want a child, and to prepare for that, I'm thinking we need to save money to some degree. Since I can't be too picky about our living arrangements for now, I suggested an apartment that looked good online for $900 a month. It's a bit small, but it's good enough, right? Oh, I wonder if the noise will echo if we have a kid and we're on the second floor. As I was looking at the property, I muttered these thoughts without even realizing. Suddenly, Ricky said something astonishing. Should we just buy a house then? What? What on earth was he talking about? I didn't earn that much, did I? My mind raced through all the possibilities. Could it be some marriage scam, or was he planning to trick me into taking out a loan? No surprise my mind jumped there, given my history of being cheated on. But then Ricky said, You think I'm poor, don't you, Melissa? You must assume I don't have any money since I spent it all on my car. His statement hit the nail on the head. But it didn't matter. I wanted to marry him. Overwhelmed by my feelings, I blurted out, That's fine. I'll work. That's all we need, right? So let's buy a house. At this, Ricky burst into laughter, leaving me puzzled. I was utterly perplexed by the situation. Hey, just so you know, I'm the CEO. Time froze for me in that moment. Seconds later, I found myself shouting in surprise, a sound so loud that I wanted to cover my own ears. But your clothes, your belongings, they don't look expensive at all. I used to wear branded stuff, but I was surrounded by people attracted by my wealth. I don't like those who expect me to lavish them with money. And when they realize I won't, they turn on me. That's why I dress like this. Besides, I honestly lack a sense of fashion. Finally, I understood Ricky's perspective. So don't worry about anything. Will you marry me? Ricky pushed up his glasses as he asked this. I would later find out that this was his habit when he felt shy. A few months later, we had our wedding. The only reason we waited to have the wedding was because Ricky's grandmother was in the hospital with an injury, and he wanted to wait until she was discharged. I laughed at my own assumption of marriage fraud. There was none of that. My co-workers, upon learning of Ricky's true identity, were envious. If I knew he was like this, I would have gone for him. Right? You'd never think that someone dressed so unfashionably would be a CEO. Melissa, you played your cards right. I wasn't sure if they were envious or mocking, but I put my foot down. I would have married him even if he were poor. It's about the person inside, not the money. Perhaps because of the comfort of being loved, I was able to respond with a bright smile. By the way, at our wedding, Ricky took off his usual black-rimmed glasses. He was astonishingly handsome, reminiscent of a movie star. He apparently wore the glasses because he didn't want to be told that he looked like that actor. June came to the wedding and congratulated us. Now I'm living just as Ricky suggested. I bought a house and continue to work. Ricky's fashion sense is a work in progress, but his attractive face and good physique make even inexpensive clothes look good on him. Lately, he's swapped his black-rimmed glasses for contact lenses or rimless glasses, and seems to be paying more attention to fashion. Although I've been cheated on in all my past relationships, I feel secure this time, because I truly love him. We naturally dote on and support each other. Let's build a happy family with Ricky. Forever.